Welcome to the second installment of Georgia O'Keeffe Week in Mrs. Mayo's in-home art studio. This activity is going to be drawing cattle skulls, which Georgia O'Keeffe often did. She drew them, she painted them. She worked from observation. She would find them in the desert. She lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You can still visit her home. It's a museum now, and I hope to do that someday in my lifetime. In any case, I don't have an actual cattle skull to look at or to work from observation. I do, however, have this magnet, and you will have the slideshow that is prepared for you to look at. Sorry. To notice things, the shape, most importantly. We're going to begin by just drawing the shape, the main part of the cow's skull. And after we do that, we're going to draw the horns. I'm going to use, as I did with my Georgia O'Keeffe flower, construction paper and oil pastels. I'm doing that because I would be using that in our classroom. So if you don't have access to oil pastels or construction paper, that is absolutely fine. This would lend itself really well with just pencil and marker. By marker, I mean like a Sharpie. You could certainly just do this in black and white. She would often add flowers around it, almost like a flower crown. You could certainly do that with just crayons or colored pencils or marker, whatever you have access to and feel comfortable with. I'm just sharing with you how we would do it in our art studio at school. So our materials for this week, construction paper or any paper and oil pastels, but whatever you have access to. All right, let's start. So I'm going to begin by just sketching this basic oval shape that I see here. And I'm going to draw really lightly because I'm certain I'm going to make mistakes. So I want to make room for the horns at the top. So you certainly want to leave a space for that. And I'm just going to look at what I'm doing. So some of you, my fourth graders in particular, are going to have an easier time with this because we have done the sugar skulls at the beginning of the year, but even my third grade friends, think back to the dancing skeletons we did and how we really could be overwhelmed by the form of the skeleton. However, when we broke it down to basic shapes, it was much more achievable and less overwhelming. So think of those basic shapes that you're seeing as you're drawing. And don't get caught up in the details at the beginning like you probably saw me. It's so easy to do because it is just such an interesting form. I can see how Georgia O'Keeffe just loved it so much because it's an incredible structure. But you really don't want to do that to start. You just want to do the shapes, and skulls are symmetrical as we are, so it's the second half's a little bit easier because you have an idea from what you drew. And I do need to come back out for my horns. Now, you're going to see this magnet I have. They kind of come out here. I don't have space for that, so I'm going to bring my cattle horns up a little bit more than maybe this one. Now, there's a variety of different type of cattle that have all sorts of different horns. So maybe this isn't a Texas Longhorn, but whatever it may in fact be. And again, if you make mistakes just like with the flower, I'm never gonna know. Do not stress. This should be fun. I really don't want you doing this on your screens. I want you to take time and work as we would in art studio. So draw outside, get some fresh air, hear those birds. They're really liking this rain we've been getting. So chirping away. I know I woke up to them this morning, but again, basic shape. So I started with this shape first, and now I'm finishing up my horns. And then I'm going to go through and add details. And again, I'm making mistakes, and that's okay. So now I'm going to elongate this a little bit more. And then you're going to see I'm using a blue paper. Georgia O'Keeffe has a really famous cattle skull on blue, so I'm paying tribute to that by doing this. But you could be doing it on white paper, which would make your process different. Instead of drawing in white, you may be working in black. So I'm going to start to press down harder. And because this is a skull, I'm going to mix it with some yellow because skulls are not perfectly white. So I'm kind of going to start to add that to add some value. And then I'm going to start to mark my blacks. This is a really important step. So I'm not gonna leave those areas blue. I'm gonna color them in black. And it's when I start to do this that it's gonna really pop out. Usually we would do the black at the end, but I kind of wanna see the effect of the black mixing with the white. So I'm not gonna leave it for the very end as I typically would say to do, because black is, as many of you know, my favorite color, but it's also very, very powerful and will kind of dominate. But in this case, I want that black to mix with my other colors to create that value feel. And kind of like those eyebrows. Look. Important on the horns here. Keep breaking all of them. Are you filming? Sorry. You definitely want to make sure you get these lines on the horns, and you want to be sure to curve them to give the illusion of 3D form instead of a flat shape. That is continuing to try to create that value. So I'm going to blend for my horns. I have a little gold here or brown. Again, it's whatever you have access to. And with the oil pastels, as you saw, they break, but it really does create a good effect to push down hard. So as much as I was even getting frustrated, I was breaking them. It's worth it. They look cool when you really push down hard. And can blend it together with the white. You can use a rag, a paper towel if you have them, to blend further. So I don't want to see any of the blue or whatever background paper you choose in your final of the actual skull. Certainly fine in the background, that's sort of the idea, but should not really be. I want to get that light reflection. Now I'm going to start to blend it into my white here. Just like with coloring in class, same direction, unless you're trying to create a texture. So I'm going to curve it here to give that illusion of space around my eye. And coloring is like an onion. You're going to have to layer it again and again to get that black really popping out. That's okay. And you're just going to keep layering and blending. I hope you're enjoying doing this, guys. I know I certainly am. All right, guys, so if I'm honest, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. So, like, so much fun. So I could probably work on it all night, but I'm gonna stop here and show you what I've done so far with my cattle skull. So again, a cattle skull inspired by the work of Georgia O'Keeffe. I haven't added flowers yet. I'd like to, I just have been really working very hard on this. You can see I made a bunch of mistakes. I had to rework areas, and instead of starting over, I just colored over and layered this blue, as I'll continue to do here. And I like the way that looks instead of having just a plain blue background. It gives it more visual depth. So always try to creatively problem solve if you are struggling, because I made mistakes, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those mistakes. It gave me an opportunity to discover new things, things I hadn't observed before about the skull. I looked at my slideshow I shared with you many times for those reference images and did my own thing. I blended some white with some beige and tans and blacks and yellows, and just did lots of layers of colors within it. Enjoy, guys. I hope you have as much fun doing this as I did. Georgia O'Keeffe cattle skull, zooming in, try to have parts of the skull going off the page if you can, or just draw with pencil in a notebook. I can't wait to see what you create, guys. Be well. Take care. Have fun.